is going on? Welcome to the DGD podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds here. Boy, what a weekend for the dogs. All right, we're going to jump straight into here. First off, again, I hope everybody in the Bones Brigade is having a great day so far. But we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, before we jump into our mailbag, Juan should be here shortly. With that being said, let's jump straight into this. Okay. One of our biggest rivals probably had a very bad weekend, to say the least. And if I can say this politely, Billy Napier and R. Kelly have something in common, and they were both trapped in the closet. And I think Billy might still be trapped in the closet because Florida is just having a rough weekend, right? If you listen to the show Friday, you already know we talked about it Friday. The fans are getting impatient. Billy had to come out and address that. And then over the weekend, you watch your prized quarterback that's been a lean to you for quite some time go to your rival in state. Now, this Jaden Rashada comes out from California, is expected to commit, and then does not. He commits to Miami. When there's more to talk about here, we might have a Reynolds rant coming. Just depends on how I feel. But not only do you lose Jaden Rashada, you also have a kid that's, I want to say, a 4-star, taking an official visit and commit to your other rival, Florida State, on the official visit. On the official visit, you basically get a kid to commit maybe 30 minutes after the official visit, I think, is after all the things. That is a terrible look. Absolutely terrible look if you're the Florida Gators. Your fans are already impatient. It would not surprise me to see this guy be in Brian Harsin before the season even starts at this point. Florida's literally watching Florida State, Miami, Georgia just come in and keep shoving Billy bags in the locker, in the closet, and not letting them out. Okay, not letting them out. And as Patrick says here, Gator garbage. Sorry guys, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is until proven otherwise. But let's jump into the more serious topic here. And how I'm feeling right now, I think it does warrant the Reynolds rant, guys. So prepare yourselves. Not only do you see what happens with Rashada going to Miami, but later that night, I want to say news breaks, reports drop out about the figures behind Jaden Rashada's NIL deal, apparently. And the guy, Michael Caspino, is a California lawyer, apparently known as the NIL lawyer, whatever, basically went out and let out a report, right? Jaden's got a $9.5 million deal to go to Miami, and strangely enough, took less. Apparently, and this is apparently because neither confirmed nor denied. Florida offered $11 million, and he turned that down to go to Miami. So from a high level standpoint, that's another thing. If this is to be true, right? Florida had a really bad weekend, and that right there took less money, right, to go to your rival would be a slap in the face. However, I'm not here to speculate, but the problem with it is this right here. In my opinion, I feel like that is a blatant NCAA violation because while kids in California can sit there and they can take NIL money in high school, that isn't applicable everywhere. With that being said, moving forward, how do you clarify these rules? These states, you need some kind of federal regulation, I would assume, or uniform regulation done by the NCAA, but there's nothing to be done. And until that's done, who knows what the hell that means for college athletics? Because the NCAA's incompetence as an organization continues to slap every single one of us in the face. I'm not saying that kids should not get money for name, image, and likeness. I've been an advocate for that since before NIL became legalized. However, I do think that pay for play, which is what, in my opinion, that was last night, is going to hurt the game of college athletics and really as an entity very soon. Absolutely, very soon. You're walking a dangerous line. But the people, and I'm talking about us fans, have been calling for this for months, even before this happened. Some sort of regulation. How do you keep this regulated? How do you keep this somewhat fair? Right? NCAA didn't listen to you. They didn't listen to me. And now we get what we got. Okay. Now you're sitting there. You're seeing 9.5 million. If this is true, Rashada goes to Miami. Right. Nico was rumored 8 million. Who knows what Arch Manning if he got an NIL deal to go to Texas? Right. We're not going to hear that number, but what is that doing to the game? Right. And for me, and this might be my get off my lawn moment, but I think last night was a perfect representation of pay for play and why it's going to hurt the game of hurt the really college athletics as a whole. I just think that it will. And until something's done, I blame the adults in the room, NCAA, for not regulating this, knowing that it should have been done years in advance. You knew this was coming, but you did nothing about it. You did nothing. You stood on your high horse and tried to keep the amateurism for as long as you could without creating a backup plan, knowing that eventually these kids would need to get paid or should get paid, but you just chose not to. And now you have the Wild West. Who knows what the fuck comes next? You really don't know. Who's to say A&M's class would become ultimately one player? Who knows? I'm just saying it could. Just saying it could. But moving on from the rant per se, sorry, end rant, guys. Patrick asked, can they put a cap on NIL dollars? Would that help at all? I think it could, right? I think that's a step in the right direction. However, I think, in my opinion, you look at the scope of NIL, and I think it should be if you're a enrolled student at a university, you're more than welcome to get into that, right? But the law of economics and human behavior states that humans are adaptive. They will find loopholes. That's what they do, right? You need a federal regulation because states can do different things. We saw what happened with NIL anyway the first time before it got legalized. You sit here, you watch states like California, Texas, Georgia, right, push for these NIL, passings, right, per se, and it forced the NCAA to open it. The NCAA needs to be proactive here, and they are not. And I don't think they will be proactive on trying to regulate some form of, NIL in this regard, right? There, in my opinion, right, kids can, every state can say that, kids can get NIL. And to that point, I understand that right there. But I feel like you have to find a way to keep it out of recruiting because, and like, and I don't see it being something that's it's going to be difficult, right? It's going to be difficult. People will find loopholes. It's what human nature tells you. But some sort of regulation, I think, needs to be done sooner rather than later to try to preserve the current state of the game. Right? We understand the game's been dirty. I'm not being naive about that. I do think that we have to stop it at some point. What can the NCAA do to stop this? Because if you're not careful, you might want to contemplate on that. Just be safe. Um, but that's neither here nor there, right? But last night, if you're not careful, that is barking up the wrong tree in the wrong direction for NIL. Like I said, I want kids to get paid. I get that. Right? Kids deserve to get paid, but I think we got to do something to regulate it. That was just blatant, right? Per name out there, schools out there, figure numbers out there, and I'm telling you, it had to have been calculated. But moving on to the topic that everybody wants to hear, and that is the Monday mailbag. That is the Monday mailbag, and we're going to go ahead and go start with some questions here that we received, right? And let's start with this. D. Jasper, will Carson, Beck, or Brock take over as QB1, and how much room for error does UGA give Stetson? Which also ties into Clemson Dude. Will Bennett hold on to QB1? So I'm going to answer these both at the same time. I'll answer Clemson Dudes first. I think Bennett will hold on to the QB1 spot, and I will tell you why. The reason why I think he will is because if you look at what he did last year, he came in, had no off-season preparation, comes in, takes over, and leads us to a national title. You can argue with me about the defense doing this and doing that, but it still takes the quarterback managing the game, being efficient, limiting turnovers, obviously being smart with the ball, utilizing the weapons, all this stuff, and he got it done. Now you give him a full off season as a starter. Somebody comes and has to take it away from him, right? Until he shows he is not capable, or someone is more than capable to take over for him, he will hold on to the spot. And looking at our schedule, I think that he will hold on to it for the season. Just the way they see it. And even if it makes it feel better, I think you look at it as, unless something drastic happens or he gets hurt, right? If you have to account for injury, sure. But you can't really account for an injury, Clemson. So for now, I think he holds on to it for the season. However, moving to G. Jasper's question, will Carson, Beck, or Brock take over as QB1? And how much room for error? I think you see a decent amount of error, right, given for him, right? He just won you a national title. You roll with the guy, right? But in the instance that he would be benched or if he got hurt and the next man up were to come, I think that's Carson Beck. Carson, I think most all of us were expecting him to be, available last season. He was our backup. Kirby came out and said it, but then the practice situation happened, right? Going into UAB. He has to understand and practice as well as he can. If not, you're going to see Brock Vandegrift, right? But in my opinion, I think Carson is next man up, and I think he's more than capable of winning ball games for us as Georgia fans. It's a good problem to have. It's not a quarterback competition, more so what position. Like, you have multiple quarterbacks that can win games for you, right? I don't think there's a competition. I think Stetson has shown that he's quarterback one for now. So thank you for those questions right there. Moving on, the fan addict. Do you think Kirby went all in on Arch, knowing that if he didn't commit to the G, we still had a room full of good QBs, and now Kirby will focus on QB in the 2024 cycle? The fan addict shoots that question out there. And to answer that question, I think the whole intent was for him to try to, go all in on that. You might see a quarterback come in this class, but it's not your top tier in this class. Dante Moore is not going to come in. Obviously, Rashada just committed. You have a Dylan Lonergan out there. There's a couple guys out there. But in my opinion, I do think that you see, maybe Kirby punts on this class, depending on how things go. Punts on the class and focuses to I wouldn't say just as deep. It's very deep quarterback class in the 24 cycle. Julian Sayin, you've got Dylan, Jaden Davis, just to name a couple, right? You could try to see if you can get Dylan Raiola. I think that ship has sailed. I think he is pretty much a lock to Ohio State. But I do think you see him, go heavy on a 2024 kid. No questions asked. You might get a quarterback in the 23 class. We'll see, right? We'll see. All right, next question comes into J. Mitch Allday and asks, is Clemson done? And what he means by that, what results will Dabo's philosophical opposition to the current climate in CFB, vis-a-vis the portal, NIL, what will that yield? And how far would Clemson have to slide before their admin starts asking some hard questions? Now, this isn't necessarily Georgia related, but it's a rival question, and I will do my best to answer this. I think, right, I think a lot of this, listen, he has brought them 2 national titles, to answer your question, Mitch. He's brought him 2 national titles. It's going to take a lot for that to really, start to kind of change things, right? But if you look at what happened so far for Clemson in June, right? They've taken several kids. Like they had a ton of commits. Now, will that yield results on the field? We'll see, right? Because after this year, you'll probably lose your guys on the defensive line, Brazee, Miles Murphy, right? You'll start to lose those guys. And with that being said, will those same guys that you're recruiting now and in this past cycle, will they produce the same production? But also how will the defense look? How will the offense look? Right? Because keep in mind, this is the first piece of adversity that he's really had. So you lose Tony Elliott, you lose Brent Venables. What is your team identity going to look like? And that's going to be the interesting piece for me. But nonetheless, I do think, you would have to have consecutive subpar seasons. And by subpar, I mean probably 8-4, 7-5. I think it would have to stoop that low. But I think Dabo has built himself a pretty nice leash, especially he's got a lot of length on that. Considering he had 2 titles, but in the scope of college football and everything like that, it's a cutthroat business, and anything can happen. So, I think you look at that right there. It's definitely interesting to see, nonetheless. But while we do that, we're going to transition over for a second, and let's shout out Juan fan club. Okay, so obviously the brigade in here. I want to see hashtag Juan fan club in the chat, guys. Drop a hashtag Juan fan club if you're listening. If you don't know, we are the fan club for your very own Juan Daniels, the co-host of the DGD podcast. It's what we do. It's what we do, right? It's what we do. But also, I'm looking at it this way right here. Right? Like, subscribe, right? Obviously on YouTube, and if you're listening or whatever, make sure to like and follow, right? Follow, like, subscribe, ring the bell, right? Ring the bell as we get the first Juan fan club in. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Oh, look at that right there. There we go. They're starting to pop in, folks. They're starting to pop in. All right, moving on. Listen, if you're in the brigade, if you're not familiar with the brigade is, the Bones Brigade is our chat for the show, right? So in the comments, feel free to drop a comment, ask a question. I guess you could do a live mailbag if we would like. So we can do that as well. And I do not know where he is just yet. He should be here shortly though. So just letting you know. But moving on to our next question, and it comes from our very own Roots. What are our main wide receiver recruiting targets for the year with so many transfers? I think, right, and where it stands right now, you got to figure out. I think you look at, because you got Raymond Cottrell, which I think will be very good, but you want to add to that, right? And with that being said, I think you look at, I think Jalen Hell would be a good addition to this class. I think Hakeem Williams is another great addition to this class. Those are my 2 main guys right now. Whether they hit or miss, I don't know. But I trust BMAC to find the guys to come in this class. Obviously, we're fairly good at receiver right now, right? But you do have to hit on some guys, right? I think Tyler Williams is another one. I think Tyler Williams would be an addition to the class if he comes in, right? So, with that being said, answer Ruth's question, I think you look at those names right there and go from there. Apparently, Patrick sent Juan 63 questions and he's busy reading them. So that would make sense. So there you go. All right, next question. Josh Wingate asks, what should we expect from the defense early on? And if you don't know, we lose 8, get drafted, right? And we lost a ton of guys, but the cupboard isn't bare, right? So early on, I think you look at the Oregon game. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But I expect our defense to kind of take a slight step back. It's hard to put that kind of expectations from what we saw last year and what the production statistics were to what it should, what we think it should be this year, right? I think with all we've lost, there should be some step back, some step back. Um, but with that being said, I still think our defense will be a top 10 defense. Statistics prove that Kirby will not let it go that far down. He just won't. So it'll be a very good defense. You look at guys, the defensive line. You lose Jordan Davis. You lose Devontae Wyatt. You lose Trayvon Walker, right? All of our line, or the three guys, right? Quay, Channing, N'Kobe. Yeah, how are you going to replace that, right? You lose Darian Kendrick. So there's a lot of talent to be replaced. But the cover, like I said, isn't bare, guys. It's really not. You still have Jalen Carter. You still have Nolan Smith. You've got guys like Robert Bill, William Poole, Chris Smith, Tyke Smith in the secondary, Keely Ringo, right? But then when it comes to linebackers, you're replacing basically three starters. So with that being said, you look to guys like Pop, right? You look at guys like Jonathan Dumas Johnson, aka Pop. You look at Smile Mondon. You look at what can Jalen Carter do? I mean, not Jalen Carter, but Jalen Walker. Sorry, what can he do? Can he come in and vie for playing time? You still got, like I said, Robert Bill and all these guys that are ready to go. And as let's see, here we go. Good question here. Rudes says he's concerned at safety. Um, and I think to your point, you have Chris Smith playing one of the safeties, but then is it Dan Jackson, right? Or I don't. I think Malachi Starks could vie for that, but I don't see it happening right away. Tyke Smith's probably expected to play in the star or something like that. So the concern is there, right? And as Ruth says, we need an enforcer. I think you see Chris Smith kind of do that. I think he'll step up. I think he'll step up. Um, but the concern is there, right? And Kirby has said that kind of dangerously thin. Don't forget about Ja'Cory Thomas, right? I think those are some guys that you could see kind of sought under the radar and make an impact. Right? Could make an impact there. So thank you for that question, Ruth. With that being said, let's move on to the next question here. And I think it's a good one. It's a good one. Probably my hardest question that I had to understand and read. Our very own UGA Spike Squad asked, which Spike Squad character is your favorite? And it is a perfect time to plug the Blackout the Bins campaign. Hashtag Blackout the Bins, right? Obviously, the Spike Squad is wanting us to black out the bins on our game against Oregon. But I'm going to answer your question as well while this graphic is up. And my man Ric Flair over there, if you can't see it, I'm sorry, but there's a Ric Flair impersonator that is a part of the Spike Squad. Our man Ric Flair over here has to be my favorite. But going back, I also liked the Joker, right? There was one that had the Joker on it, and I thought that was awesome too. But if I had to go right now, I'd have to say Ric Flair. I'm a wrestling guy. I really am. So when you have Ric Flair, give me a woo. You know what I mean? We're good to go. We're good to go there. So, Rudes throughout this. Rudes throughout. Keely Ringo's mama, Traley, is his favorite Spike Squad member ever. And you know what? To that point, that's a great one to have too. And also throws the hashtag fuck cancer. Absolutely. Anybody going through that, experience that. I think we all agree with that sentiment there. And we get the woo. And we get the woo. Just saying. Listen, as always, listen, we got the cancer chance going on. Beat cancer now. I think we all can agree. Now, listen, at the same time, don't judge me for having to choose a favorite. It's a question. I had to do it. I love all the Spike Squad. I love the Spike Squad as a whole. But when the Spike Squad asks you a question and you have to choose one, sorry, guys. So don't take it personal. I love you all. I love the Spike Squad, so keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. Love the Spike Squad, okay? With that being said, we're going to open it up for a Q&A for the brigade. Q&A. We're going to continue the mailbag as we got the roll call here. Rudes, the 63-3 DGD, Joe, Michael B in the chat. What are some questions, concerns, that you're interested, or that you have thoughts about? Um, I think it's pretty big. I pretty big deal. To try to figure out some of these questions. It's pretty important. While we wait for some stuff to come up, though, I do want to give a shout out to my man Brooks Austin. Apparently, is about to be a daddy of two, if not already. So, congratulations to Brooks Austin for that. Our boy over there, Mr. Beezus. As Rudes throws up the first question here, let's see what he says. Who shows up next to Jalen Carter as a rotational or consistent names along the defensive line, specifically, at defensive tackle? I think you look at Warren Brinson, if he can be consistent. Nazir Stackhouse, I think will be another good name. I think you see those two. I think those two are going to be the guys. I do. But then don't forget my man, notorious TID, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. I think that man is primed for a breakout year. Obviously, and listen, this is just the situation that we're in. You have all of these guys that are going to be good players, but you can rotate them in still. Shout out to Coach Scott for that. Just saying. Just saying. Let's see. Yes, absolutely, Rude. It's already. All right. Patrick asks, does Branson Robinson make a deep impact in his freshman year? I think he will not, in a sense that he will play, but I do think that they want to put him in a fourth down situations, kind of like a Dejon Edwards has been playing, right? Because it's just what we do, right? Because you've got you've got Kenny McIntosh, you've got Kendall Milton. They're probably going to be a 1 and 2. Listen, Dejon has earned that number 3 back, unless we see through summer camp and fall camp that Branson Robinson's just that too damn good, and then you see him take over Dejon. I love Dejon personally. I love what he brings as a running back. How do you fit that 3? You see those 3 rotate in. I think you'll see Branson Robinson playing as well. I don't know about a deep impact for that, but I do think he can. I think he definitely will provide those fresh legs, fourth quarter situations, third and shorts, right? I think he is, I think he's just going to be ready for a short down situation. Give him some time to make sure he develops into the offensive scheme, whether it be the passing game more so than anything. We get the Gator garbage again. Never a bad time to plug Gator garbage. Okay. Michael B asks, "Oh man, how much does it suck to be a Florida fan right now, dude? Right now, that's my answer. Right now? Question mark. I don't. It's never a good. It's never a good time to be a Florida fan anyway. It just never is. So it always sucks." Michael, to answer your question, it always sucks because you're a Gator fan, right? Like, it just makes it even worse what you just went through this weekend. Not sorry. Not sorry at all. Ruse asks, how does Lad McConkey's role evolve this year? Wasn't he primarily a slot as a freshman? Definitely looking at Lad, I think you take maybe he has to evolve. I think you could put him on the outside, make him be an outside guy. He's shown he can run past people, right? But at the same time, you still hold those reservations, right? You hold those reservations based off of what he can do against cornerbacks number 1 and 2, if anything. In the slot, you put him in that situation. I think you see him do that, right? I think you put him outside and just let it roll, right? And as Michael here says, Lad's going to play the Z with KJ and Blaylock in the slot. Kieran Jackson was a great slot receiver, Blaylock as well. And I can't wait to see Blaylock, by the way, coming back from injury. Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint playing as well. So for me, I think his role does evolve. I don't see why it shouldn't. Right? I know AD Mitchell's going to be probably a staple out there, but at the same time, if he needs to take a break too. So I think if he does, you could either put him at C or replace him in for AD. Honestly, he's got great route running, and he's physical enough that I think he can do it and still get people over the top. His role should evolve. So great question there. 63-3 asks, let me see here, hold on. 63-3 asks, does Brock Bowers fall into the sophomore slump? Personally, I don't, or personally, 63-3 does not think so. That's a good question, right? I think the sophomore slump, you're going to see people game plan against him, right? But in my opinion, there's too many weapons to do that because you can focus on him, but other people are going to burn you. And when they do that, you have to focus on that other person, right? So say, for instance, Eric Gilbert has a day, right? If he has a day, if he's having a good day and he's got receptions and a touchdown or whatever, do you double team him? Then you open up Brock Bowers. If you want to run 13 personnel, like our guy Mike B says here. So I don't think it matters. I think he's going to see a lot of production anyway. I think you see a step down in production, barring injuries and people staying healthy. I think you see us spread it around more. I think Brock went under the radar for most of the year, but he's that damn good too. So people know that what he's about now. But I still think you don't necessarily see a sophomore slump, more so than you just see production regression, and that's from just being able to move the ball around more, right? More weapons. I still think Todd Monk is going to find that situation. Right? He's going to be situational, find out where he needs to get the ball to, find mismatches, exploit mismatches, and win Georgia football games. That's just the way it's got to be. So I don't necessarily think there's going to be a sophomore slump. It just depends on what you view a sophomore slump to be. Like if it's like a drastic change, then no, I don't see that drastic of a change. Mike B says, I don't think it's going to be possible to get a 1K receiver this year because there are too many options or weapons. I 100% agree with you. I completely agree with you there. And this whole notion of Georgia, the whole Stetson situation, it's ironic, and I think it's laughable to me, how people keep overlooking the offense. Everybody's like, oh, your defense is what got you where you did. Did our defense throw touchdowns? We had to execute on offense at least, right? Average near 40 points a game. Defense didn't score 40 points a game for you. So there's something there, right? Everybody, it's just Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was featured a lot, but nobody wanted to do nothing about it to stop him. Couldn't stop him, right? So, yeah, you sit there, you see those situations right there. Now you look at AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell came in clutch, right? Jackson Meeks is another one I think could have a good season too. But you look at, Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey stepped up, had several good games. Keep that in mind. So you see a lot of these guys stepping up when they need to and executing when their numbers call. And it produces wins, and dominant wins at that matter. We didn't really lose that much on the offense. You lose Jermaine Burton, sure, but you didn't really lose that much, right? Yes, you have to worry about the defense. Fair. But I trust Kirby Smart to get that situated. If anything, I trust him to focus on defense, right? I think that's acceptable to say. Patrick asks, where's Juan? Hey, he might be at a luncheon still, so keep that in mind. So we'll try to prolong it if we can. If not, we will catch him Friday. So apparently Joel's question is who will be backing up Stetson this year? I think Carson. I would love to say Brock as well. I think Brock's in a good situation. I just think that you look at Carson Beck, as being that guy, right? He was supposed to be the guy last year. Obviously, we saw what happened. Nonetheless, I think you have to, unless something changes otherwise. I think you look at it as being Carson and then Brock. I think Brock is still going to take that year to absorb the offense again. Keep that in mind. He came in, understanding the playbook is a key for him. Did a fairly good job as a freshman. There's still a lot to learn in this offense, especially with what Monken's doing. It's kind of complex. So, just because you came in one year, you're not ready 100%. That's okay, right? You're not forced into a situation where you feel like you're forced to be the starter, right? Quinn Ewers ain't touched a snap. Ain't played a snap in college, and he's about to be the guy at Texas. Sink or swim at that point, right? You don't have to do that if you're Brock Vandagriff, right? You just don't. So take it for what it's worth. I think you see Carson Beck be your backup. Mike B asked, can Georgia get to 40 sacks this season? And honestly, that's a good question. And he adds to that, if so, what's the outline look like for that to happen? Is it Nolan Smith stepping up? Is it incoming freshman MJJ, Marvin Jones Jr., Mike Kell stepping up, Bradley Beal possibly taking over? I think it's possible to get 40. Looking at the schedule, if you had to put a gun to my head, I'm gonna say you get high 30s, but I think you can get 40. I'll say you get 40. So yes, looking at the schedule, it's going to be interesting to see. Is all I'm going to say. But if you had to choose, I think you see an expanded role with Nolan Smith, and I also see guys. Jalen Carter's going to dominate, and that should open up guys like Tyron Ingram-Dawkins or Warren Brinson. I think you're going to kind of see this balanced effect, right? You might have guys on the outside, the linebackers being able to run free. The problem is losing Jordan Davis. You don't have that guy to eat the space to allow the linebackers to run free. You could see that, but will it? I just don't think it'll be the same. I just don't see it being the same. So you're going to have to find different ways to produce those havoc plays, get to the quarterback, sack the quarterback. Is that a disguised blitz off the edge? Is it basically bringing Michael Williams in, Kristen Miller in, Marvin Jones playing a part? Maybe. But I think Kirby, Coach Scott, Coach Schumann will find a way. And with our schedule, I do think on the season, Georgia can get to 40 sacks. 6033 asks, do you see Gunner sticking around or transferring out, knowing the competition in the quarterback room? Honestly, I think you see him stick around. I think the question would be, if you look, just think about it. You have Stetson this year. Then it's Carson in theory. Carson could play 1 year, bounce. Then then you could sit there and see Brock play a year and bounce, right? We saw what happened with Bama when you wait, right? You have that one season, Mac Jones waits, boom, goes to the league, right? I think that's beneficial for quarterback development. I just think so, right? I understand kids want to play, and it's in today's world, the transfer portal is a thing like that, right? If the transfer portal wasn't a thing, I don't see that situation occurring, having these guys in this room at one time like that. I think that overall, I think you see them stay, because if you just wait, right? There's been lighten it up. It's going to be tough. Ultimately, I would say he stays, but it would not shock me if he did, unfortunately. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Joe asked, it's going to be fun to watch for sure. Last year really evolved, right? We really evolved, so that's part of the fun. And also shoots out the Juan fan club, and Juan is gone. Yeah, he'll be back, I promise. He was lost, but now he's found, okay? So keep that in mind. With that being said, I think we can wrap this up here, folks, for the day. Let's make sure, like I said, if you're listening, if you're watching, first off, if you're watching, wherever you're watching, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified when we go live. That helps. It helps the show, and it's completely free. If you are listening, make sure to follow. Hey, give us a review. Tell us what you really feel about the show. Right? I got some thick skin, so if you want to sit there and shoot us a shitty review, that's okay. I'll read it. Oh, you trashed Florida too much. Okay. Either way, let us know what you think about the show, whether you like it, hate it. Let us know. The only way we can get better is to see reviews and what people think. Simple enough. I keep putting out content. It does not matter if I don't hear back and get engagement from the folks listening and watching. Right? As always, hashtag Juan fan club. Go dogs. Sick 'em. Make sure to tune in Friday, guys. Got a busy show. We've got a plethora of content getting ready, getting prepped for y'all, especially after media days up until the start of the season. If things go well, we've got that already planned out for you. We'll talk more about that Friday. And you know what? Apparently, someone 63 to 3 thinks that we don't bash Florida enough here. Hashtag Gator garbage. Mm, 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 mm. Ain't that a shame, folks? We're not doing a good enough job. So we'll find a way to get a jab at those lousy stinking Gators. Okay. With that being said, have a great rest of your day and catch y'all Friday.